Hello traders. Today we dive into a reading the tape session to learn how a trader profits from an oversold stock. Hi, I'm Jeff Holden, head of recruiting at S&B Capital, a proprietary trading firm located in Midtown Manhattan, trading equities, options, futures, and crypto as automated and discretionary traders. In this video, we work on reading the tape in an oversold stock in intense detail. Let's check it out.
All right, so this is going to be the tape of Netflix on January 24th. So just some context going into the day, Netflix was down about 10% on the day after closing the previous day down over 20%. This followed after a negative earnings reaction on the daily chart. The stock was overextended. For me going into this day, this was more of an overextension bounce setup with the catalyst of the negative earnings reaction and the negative market sentiment at the time. The setup for me was once we were overextended, I was looking at the tape, and I think the tape was really important here. And I was really looking for any major change of character in the speed of the tape, the strength of the tape, any big buyer stepping in, and what we can see on the time and sales.
This is a super granular look at exactly, kind of something that we talk a lot about on the desk. Certainly this year it's been responsible for a lot of our P&L on the desk is being involved in these big turns. And a lot of recognizing that turn is your tape reading skills. And that's why we drill on this. That's why we're doing this right now, is because, catching turns is kind of a tough thing. And a lot of people say you're trying to catch a falling knife and stuff like that. Yeah, if you don't have a plan, that's exactly what you're trying to do. You're guessing that at every level, there might be something, maybe it's down too much, it can't go down much further, or whatever. But when you're reading the tape, you're actually using a lot of skill. Exactly. And you're just listening to the stock, and you're listening to the price action. And as much as you'll see it on the chart when we review it at the end, you're gonna see it live, and you're gonna feel it, and you're gonna recognize it. And then what it means moving forward, based on the information that you have, is really where the skill of reading the tape can add so much value to your trading.
100%. Yeah, going back to what you said, some may argue that it's like catching a falling knife, but I would argue that actually bounce trades for me, I can get the most information from the tape itself. You get so much information, you can see a clear change of character if you get what you want to, and that can give you a lot of conviction in the trade.
And a tremendous amount of edge. Like, you have the conviction, but when you actually see it on the tape, you have edge because not only are you recognizing this is what is happening, but then you understand through your training, through your playbooking, through just other tape examples, this is what should happen. And you can adjust accordingly. If it doesn't happen, how do I adjust? I'm not just gonna ride size down after I saw exactly what I wanted to see. No, I'm gonna adjust my trading according to what happens after this really important moment.
If you want to learn 3 more real-world setups that our traders use, including the simple setup that we teach all of our new traders, and the setup that turned one of our traders into a 7-figure big money earner, check out the free webinar that we're currently running. Just go ahead and click the link that should be appearing now at the top right-hand corner of your screen. That will open up the free registration page in a new window, so don't worry, you won't lose this video. You can also visit tradingworkshop.com to register for this free intensive workshop. You're going to learn more in a couple of hours from this trading workshop than from years of online education.
So right here you can see Netflix is trading at about 357 right now. This is going to be pretty quick, so we can always rewind, but it's trading at 357.50 after putting in a low. It's about $1 off its low. And at this point, down 10% on the day, pretty extended from VWAP. I was pretty interested here. You have a ton of green prints going on the time and sales.
Pause the tape real quick. What is green? Define green prints.
Yeah, so there were a lot of orders going through at or above the ask. So you had a lot of buyers initiating the transaction. You had buyers stepping up, and buyers were being aggressive.
And so, just to take it even a step back, at or above the ask means there's an ask, right? So there's an offer. People are willing to step in, and they don't care. They're not like sitting there on the bid, letting the price come to them. They're taking whatever price they get. whether it's a market order and they're hitting above, whether it's like a fixed price and it happens to be above and they're T-WAPing in or V-WAPing in, like they don't care. They need that price.
Yeah, they just want to get in right now.
Correct. Yes.
And as a trader, and when you can identify this can really signify a change in sentiment, especially if it's a mean reversion trade like this.
Totally.
Yeah, so again, about $1, a little over $1 off the lows now. And again, a lot of orders going through at or above the ask. We're now holding 358 right now on the bid, and the speed of the tape is just, we're seeing the numbers skip, we're seeing the tape flutter, and we're skipping every 10 to 15 cents here. On the way up, we test 360, which would be a psychological level sometimes, and we broke
Can you go back, sorry, about probably 15 seconds. Go to like 40. So like, talk me through exactly what you're seeing here, because I think this moment is really interesting.
Yeah.
We're 359 and a half. What happens right here?
Yeah, so from a pure price action perspective, this was already a change of character in price action. We already broke above the previous bar's high, and we were pretty aggressive on this as well. From the tape, we can see that we're about $3 off the lows right now, which again was a pretty big change of character on this downside move. We really weren't getting $3 off the lows. Not only that, but the tape is really fast. On the way down, the tape sort of started to get heavy and slow down, but once buyers started to step in, offers lifted, we got this really light flutter on the tape where it was skipping prices, and we were just really skipping prices really quickly. And
We're
going
$3.50 off the low roughly, right?
Yeah.
What do you expect to happen between now and the next 5 minutes?
Yeah, so
Actually, let's break it down. What do you expect to happen in the next minute?
yeah, at this moment, I would expect us to go higher. I would expect us to test 360 and get above 360.
Okay. What are two ways we could do that?
So how would we get above 360?
Yes. What are two ways two tradable ways that we could do that?
Yeah, so you can either, we could test 360 and there'd be large sellers. It can be asks there, there could be a wall. We might consolidate for a little bit, which we could eventually lift, and we can trade higher from there. Or we can test it and there may not be those large sellers and we can go right through it.
Okay. So, and I was trying to lead you in this way. One thing that I'm curious about if it's going to happen on the tape or not, and why I wanted to pause right here, was what happens if they all of a sudden pull the bids? What's your thought process?
Yeah, so at this point right now, for this trade that I was taking, which was a move-to-move trade, once we hit like this $3 mark, I knew that it was a clear change of character. My thought process has gone from risking the lows to, this is really going to work if it works, and I don't need to give it that much room anymore. I'm risking like break even at the most on this trade. It really shouldn't go against me right now. So if they pull the bids, I'm going to hit out. If it's going to pull the bids and if it's going to test break even price, then I'm going to be hitting it.
All right, let's see what happens. So you clear the 360.
360 is cleared. Trading at 360, offers lifted 361 there. And at this point, I decided to take some profits into the 9 SMA, which is moving average I'll use for overextensions.
Yep. And what's happening now? So pause it again.
Yeah, so right now we're seeing a bit of stalling out. The tape is getting a bit heavy, and we're sort of maybe getting a bit of agreement, and the sellers are starting to step in more at 361.
What would you expect to happen from here? What would you be really uncomfortable with from here?
I would be really uncomfortable if a lot of sellers started hitting the bid, 360 and 360.
So red prints, basically. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What would make you really comfortable here? Comfortable enough to add?
I would say if the bids can really hold above 361 quickly, and we had a lot of orders going through above the ask.
Okay.
So we're at 361. We lifted 361 right now on the ask, but in my opinion, the tape was still a lot slower than it was over the past minute. So I was, again, a move-to-move trade. We really did skip up a little bit there, but at this point, I was looking more so into taking profits if the tape continued to show a bit of heaviness like this.
I mean, you have to almost expect this heaviness into the 9 EMA because the 9 EMA held so cleanly, right?
Exactly.
So how are you adjusting your thought process from here?
Yes.
Because you have a low and we have a nice move off the low.
Right.
So how can you adjust your thought process to think about what trade could happen next?
Yeah, so at this moment, I was really just in a defensive mode. I was thinking we may lift 362 and we could continue there. Maybe best case scenario, we can get a push above, or not above, but to VWAP. Maybe test there, best case scenario. But at this point, I was in defensive mode.
What if we drop to 359.5 from right here, from 362, basically?
I would really be uncomfortable, and I would if we dropped to 359.5, bids held below, I would most likely look to hit out.
Okay.
And something that I really noticed here at first was that the spread got a bit wide, and while the asks lifted 362, I could rewind like 5 seconds. The bids at first didn't want to step above 362.
Yep.
They eventually do though, and continue higher. Asks at 362.90s, lifted 363 for a second, and then dropped.
At this point, you're what, $7 off the low?
Yeah. Yep.
So it's a decent bounce, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
and honestly, going into the trade, this is about what I was expecting, but in a lot shorter period of time.
Yeah.
If not more.
But that's one of the things that is amazing about reading the tape, and you can pause it just for a second, because now we're extending, right? So now we're starting to really see that like push,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So like for an overextension trade, that's the first leg of what you want to see. And if you're focused on, I have so much edge because of it's overextended to the downside, now it's pretty quickly overextending to the upside. I mean, you can see it took back that entire, that's a minute chart above you?
2 minute chart.
2 minute chart. So 1, 2, 3, 4, basically 8 minutes down and 4 minutes up.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. Even before that, it was consolidating a bit. So 12 to 14 minutes, it made up in about 2 to 4 minutes. So,
which is pretty fast.
Yeah.
And so now you want to be thinking, okay, what am I looking for on the tape that's really going to get me out?
Yeah. For me at this point, recognizing how overextended it can be now on just this 4 minute period, really just any sign that sellers are stepping in or that buyers can be exhausting, I wanted to reduce size. So I thought I could get out at pretty good prices.
Yeah.
So as we're testing 364.20s here, we really did start to stall out.
How linear is your thought process with your exits?
As in?
Are you thinking, okay, every dollar up, I want to be selling, every $2 up, I want to be reducing 25% of my position, 10% of my position. These are all things you want to have figured out before you get into it, because you want to be as focused on reading the tape as possible so you can systematically exit the trade.
Right, yeah. So going into this trade, my full exit plan was to really look for that 9 EMA test, and I would look to take off size there if we see some stall out on the tape. And then after that, once we get above, I was really looking for any weakness on the tape, any sign of buyers exhausting, and then I would look to take size off into that.
I would like to point out just to the right of the level 2, that is
extreme buyers hitting the ask right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's definitely something to point out. We're also about to test 365 right now, which we did test and we're sort of holding below right now. Offers lift, and bids are still low, and now bids stepping above. And at this point, I had on about, I think, 25% left of my remaining position.
Okay. What's going to get you to exit?
At this point, we're now about 10 points off the lows. I think any clear change of character. I think at this point, it's not so much about any nuance I see, but I sort of want to be patient and really wait for maybe a more significant change of character in the tape. And it's hard because it's all relative, because when you say significant change, well, for like a move-to-move trade, that can still be kind of small relative to a bigger trade. But so at this point, buyers are at 365, step at 366. And right now, I just sort of really had in mind, I think my main focus was just the change in character of the speed of the tape from how fast it was at the beginning to progressively getting heavier and heavier. And that's something I was thinking about and made display that buyers could be getting a bit exhausted at these levels. And at this point, I ended up offering up the other 25%. I could rewind a little bit, but basically with the slowness in the tape, and then there were a good amount of sellers that were hitting the bid, and we did drop about, we dropped about 55 cents, which I saw as a change of character relative to this initial move. And at that point, I was comfortable taking off the other 25%.
Yep. And this is 6 months ago now.
Yeah, this was January of 24.
So you have had 6 months of tape reading,
Yeah.
chart work, playbooking,
Yeah.
studying your executions.
Mm-hmm.
And so looking back now, I just kind of am curious, like, are you confident? Obviously your size is much bigger now too.
Mm-hmm.
Looking back, do you feel like you executed this in the way that you want to execute it? Or was there something you would want to do differently this time?
So yeah, when I rewatched this tape at first, the first thing I noticed was I would definitely, I think, execute it a little bit differently. Well, for one, relative to how I executed this initially, I could have been bigger, as in I think I took this as a B trade. I think right now this would be about an A trade. I would have been bigger. And then as far as my exits.
Like, define bigger, like 5 times bigger, 3 times bigger, 25 times bigger?
3 times bigger, yeah.
Relative to your stop.
Relative to my
Yeah,
stop.
Yep.
Yeah. 3 times bigger relative to my stop. And as far as exiting, I will say I think maybe I got a little jumpy on the last exit. I do think I could have been a little more flexible with that. Something that I do now that has been working well is sort of identifying a level of inflection, and rather than getting flat on the first sign of weakness, it's just really waiting to see if that level of inflection is tested, and then if the buyers drop that level, then I'll hit out.
Interesting. Yeah.
So I think that's really what I would have done differently.
That's good, because you're a different trader now than you were then. But
Yeah.
It's important to study big moments as many times as you can possibly do it, and not do it from a lens of judging what you did well or poorly, but just how would I do it better next time? How would I do it better next
Yeah.
time? So that's good. I really love this example. We talked about it, but I'd love you to pull up the chart so we can see what happened. Because the trade you made was a really good move-to-move trade. And your tape reading was really good, but just what's so interesting to me is how much of this trade really played out in a really unique way, and focusing on just that part of the trade that you highlighted, that overextension part.
Yeah.
Looking at this move, it was what?
Yes.
How much of that move did you capture versus how much of that move actually was there?
Yeah, so from 357, and I ended up getting flat around 366-ish right here. We came back down, and then we pushed up to like 370, 130, and then we ended up coming back down and taking out the lows. So I think captured about like 75, 80% of it.
Yep.
So, and that's also something that I've been doing recently after taking the trade, after the day is over, going back and looking at the price action and really seeing, relative to what the stock was doing and what the tape was showing, and using my best judgment how I could have executed better, or if I did a really good job or not. And that's something I would note in my daily report card.
Steve Spencer talks about this, of the general idea, I think, is if your P&L represents 2/3 of the maximum P&L you could make in the trade if you would have had perfect entry and exit, that's really good. So if you can get 2/3 of whatever your size was on the entry to whatever your real reason to sell was, and you had a very valid reason to sell, but again, it like drops in and immediately rebids, and so it's sort of like your reason to sell is going to always be evolving, because your trading skills are going to get better. You're going to be thinking about things a little differently. Even looking at the way we're looking at this chart now and the tape, you recognize, I saw that little sheepish grin on your face of like, man, I really shouldn't have sold there. But that just happens. Like that's a part of getting better as a trader. So I really think that this sort of work is what helps you get better. And then if you can, in general, make about 2/3 of what you could have made if you would have been perfect, because we don't try to be perfect. It's too much effort.
Yeah.
You try and do exactly what you're supposed to do. So 2/3 is pretty good. So, just as a rule of thumb.
Awesome. Well, yeah, I totally agree. Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah, it was fun. That was a good tape. So we're going to score this now. It's a new thing that we're doing on our desk, so our scorecard may evolve. But for right now, we're going to score everything out of 20. We only have 5 categories, but we like to do everything in hundreds. Set the stage, the catalyst, setup, trade. I thought you did a really good job here. I would give you like a 18 out of 20. The one thing that I would not give you a 20 out of 24 is simply the fact that it's an A+ setup. I mean, in your playbook, this is an A+ setup. We're scoring it retroactively, so it's kind of like tough to say, but it is an A+ setup because of the market, because of the individual name, everything. So be identifying what's actually there by isolating key moments in the tape. I thought you did an excellent job of that, honestly, 20 out of 20. The speed at which the tape was changing, and then seeing how many buyers were willing to step in above the ask, that was really, really important information. So that's 20 out of 20. What should that mean moving forward in the stock? Honestly, that's 15 out of 20. Like, we were talking about what should this mean, what should this mean, what should this mean. I think the more you do this exercise, the more you're going to be thinking about those things real time. And it just kind of is like, you get less jumpy because you're like, okay, what if it drops out? Okay, how would I handle that? Well, if it drops out but then rebids pretty quickly, that's actually a better sign for this trade, right? Like, how many times have we seen that? Like, so little things like that, the more mental reps you do, you'll do a better job there. How did the stock react to those things? Like we talked about it again, 20 out of 20, you did really well there. And then what are the implications of that to your trading? I thought you did a really good job of adjusting, so I'll give you 20 out of 20 there as well. So pretty good for a first run here. So yeah, nice job, and I look forward to more tapes like this.
Hey, go ahead and click our subscribe button so you don't miss any of the videos that we're producing for you in the trading community. And please take the time to add your feedback in the comments section for what videos you'd like for us to produce next and what you found helpful from this video. From all of us at S&B, train and trade well.